Hi, I'm George Menchu of Automotive Electronic Services, or AESWave.com as some of you know us. Well, a unique opportunity has presented itself, and here I'm bringing together two folks that are out there trying to make things happen. On my right here is Warren Parr. He owns a local shop here in Fresno, and ever since I've known him, he has been on a mission. And his mission has been trying to put together an auto career program at his local high school. And here I have Andy Alvarado. He is part of the local school administration. And he has been working with Warren. And so today I've got them together so we can talk about what they've gone through, what they've accomplished, and how things are looking. And in the big picture, what can we all learn to help support these types of efforts and make it easier for the next motivated folks that want to accomplish something like this. So to begin with, guys, tell me a little bit about yourself. Warren, let's start with you.
Been in the automotive repair for about 30 years. Been attending school board meetings regularly for about 23 years.
Now, your auto repair shop's here in Fresno.
Correct.
And the school board meetings that you're talking about are in the Central Valley. It's not Fresno, but it's in
Madera,
Valley.
where I live.
Okay, very good. And so what is it that you've been working on? Why have you been going to these school board meetings?
Well, I started going back to school board meetings in '92 just because of curriculum and things like that. I wanted to be involved with those kinds of things. And then just being involved with budgets and things like that. But then really I was, trying to be involved with career vocational technology or career what?
Technical education
career,
is the new term.
Over career educational tech.
It's kind of tough.
Career CTE, career technical education.
Career, over again, career technical education, and I've just been involved in that. And as you know, in California, budgets are always tight, and so you just have to attend meetings. You just have to be there because you never know when the opportunity is going to be there, the money's going to be there, and you're going to be able to move forward. And so I've been involved for a long time to deal with that, to make that happen. And then about 4 or 5 years ago, as you know, my son left the business, and that was really bothered me when he left. And I asked him, I said, Andrew, you're going to inherit Complete Car Care someday. You're going to be your own boss. Isn't that something that you would want? And my son said, no, Dad, that's not what I want. That's why I want to leave now. He's a young man, 25 at the time. And I said, Andrew, I don't understand. Can you explain it to me? And he said, Dad, you work 6 days a week. You work late at nights. You don't take a vacation. You're always chasing money. Why would I want that? And that upset me. And so I realized at that point in time that there were a lot of other shop owners just like me that were in the same situation with their sons. So my son went on to work for the government where he could make a lot more money. So in trying, hopefully someday, to get my son back to the business, I have to be able to pay a lot more, our industry, I have to be able to pay my son a lot more money than I currently can. And so kind of developed a model about using technology to be able to do everything in the shop a lot faster with lab scopes and current amp probes and stuff like that, so that we could be more productive and generate more revenue without raising the price to the customer. And so that's what I've been working on, is trying to really advance the technology in our shop. And so being involved with the school district, of course, if I have anybody that I want to employ, I'm looking for students with the best set of skill sets, and that would be, if they want to work on a car, the best set of skill sets would be, can you work with a laptop? And that's what I want. The preferred tool is not a screwdriver or a pair of pliers. The preferred tool would be a laptop. So, of course, as things happen for me, that's when I began to, we were already talking, or we were beginning to talk,
You
And I
Andy?
told, yeah, me and Andy.
Okay.
And I was talking to him, probably the superintendent, even maybe prior to him. We were talking about my new industry, or what my industry needed, skill sets coming out of school in order for them to be employable. And that's always something he was always asking me, what do they need to, what skill sets the students need to come out of here with in order to be employable?
And just to be, just to clarify, right now you are focusing on high school. So when you say students, you're talking about high school students.
My relationship with Andy is with the high school. I am also on the advisory committee for the local city college, for our local community college.
Okay, that's
So-
excellent. So your primary focus has been high school, and you've wanted to see an automotive department develop.
That's right.
Yeah. So go ahead.
Well, you know, this is a really critical point that I think needs to get out, not only to, I mean, the educators, but also to the business folks that are out in private sector or out in the field doing the work. When we're trying to put together curriculum as an educational institution, it's critical to have folks like Warren, you know, that are out in industry, that understand what it is that we need to do with our students and prepare them for the workforce. And that's where the conversation started coming in, you know, into play, is with Warren. What is it that our kids need to know in order to be successful with you? And had I not had that conversation, I would have been under the perception that, you know, our mechanics are still using those wrenches and sockets, and I would have never put together the technological advances that you guys have made. And so in those conversations, we were able to incorporate that into the future curriculum within those programs.
And of course, that changed the function of the shop. The shop, in my opinion, should be more like a classroom.
That's a good point.
So
Yeah.
what my purpose was for that, one of the things that I thought was the advantage is if the automotive shop looked more like a classroom and it was a virtual automotive repair, then that the automotive repair shop could be a universal type shop, because we're such a small district, we have 600 students in the high school, that it could be a multi-purpose. And so I felt by making that kind of compromise and not insisting on a certain building that's a shop and a certain way, that we could make it happen much more easily.
And you know, as an educator, having advisors like Warren that are so passionate about, you know, this cause, you know, it just makes things so much easier. You know, when you're trying to design program and put it together. And Warren has really truly been the true champion in the direction that we're going, that we were going over in Golden Valley in terms of the pathway that we had selected. And it's through our conversations that we've had and his involvement in our career technical education committee that we ended up landing on a manufacturing and forming technology pathway, which will be a part of our future CTE building, and which will incorporate technology on I mean, a pretty heavy dose of technology within that program. And so, you know, right now we're still in the conceptual design of all that. But these are the conversations that we're having in terms of what the program may look like in the future.
Right. You know, within this conversation, there's just so many good points. Let's just back up just a little bit. Tell us a little bit more about your personal involvement. Where are you at in the structure of things when all this was going on? You know, I hear you talking about the technical things of putting this type of program together. You were superintendent.
When we first started the conversation, I was assistant superintendent overseeing the educational side of the house, if you will, within the district. And one of my charges back then was to put together a career technical education committee and design the curricular offering for the future, which is CTE building, which is still yet to be built. So we started that about 7-8 years ago, I think. And during those meetings, we were taking a look at the facility that was already drawn up, realizing that it was pretty insufficient in the way it's currently drawn. And you wouldn't be able to come to that conclusion unless you had advisors that were actually tradesmen out in the field, understanding that, you know, this is the type of specification you need for a double wide door in order to bring units in to work on. So, you know, and then our charge at the time was to develop a pathway and a sequence of courses that would fall under that pathway. And it was through conversations not only with Warren but other members in the industry, various different parts of industry, agriculture.
Right.
Yeah.
We were trying to work with ag also. They have a little less technology involvement, I guess, but we wanted to work with the guys in ag.
And so in those conversations, we ended up with a pathway. But, you know, the conversations that we had were really around making sure that the curriculum that we were going to design was going to be rigorous enough for our students, which was going to be relevant to the kids' learning, and then in developing relationships with kids. And to me, the relevancy of, you know, career tech ed or vocational education, you know, that is the hook. You know, you got to get the kids. You have to show them how it's relevant to what they're going to be doing in the future or what they're learning, and then the relationship piece speaks for itself. But you know, that kind of led into the career fair that I was talking to you about earlier, and that is a prime example of being able to bring in partners and bring them right in front of the kids, so that the kids can see with their own eyes what it is that you do in particular.
And we answered their questions.
And you answered their questions, and you brought devices and tools in that they could actually put in their hands, that they could actually work and with your facilitation. So that was just real powerful.
Warren invited me last year, and I went out and saw the presentations that they were doing, and I was amazed. And it goes into your point about what you want the kids to learn. You know, the technology, the laptop, because it was very obvious how excited and how interested they were when they were watching you hook up to a car and show a waveform.
And know what that line means.
Exactly. You know, looking at the scan data, looking at the latest hybrid cars, you know, that is the hook, probably the key hook to get kids interested, is for them to understand that this is such a high technology. It is an exciting opportunity.
Well, I wanted them to also understand that what we're doing right now in the automotive industry isn't something that's fallback, something that you fall into because another trade or another industry didn't work out for you. With all the technology and the advancements in automotive due to emission standards and those things like that, we really need top-ranked students. We don't really, what we're doing, we want students that are focused on technology and the challenge that comes with what we're doing, the challenge of converting pressures into an electronic waveform or temperatures into electronic waveform, and looking at that over time and evaluating the actual physics that happen. That line on that screen represents a physical process or what happened. And so, of course, you have to understand what's supposed to happen, and then you look at the waveform and it tells you what did happen, and it helps you figure out what's wrong. And so we want them to understand. I was telling the students, if you're ever interested in being a detective or a doctor, this is the same thing. We're always asking the car questions, and it always answers, but not in English. It answers on numbers or a line,
let me stop you there.
Yeah.
What you just said is an extremely important point, and this is something that I really believe is that teaching automotive has an opportunity and an impact that goes well beyond automotive repair.
Correct.
Because you're interacting, you're hands-on, and the logic, the underlying logic applies to so many different things. Whatever you're going to do in your life, it can be an excellent foundation builder. And so that point alone goes into the topic of the idea of the industrial trades, the hands-on trades, which, as you guys know, has kind of disappeared over this certain amount of time. In fact, you made a good point, Andy, about the computers coming in to play. Industrial trades went out the door. What's your experience on that point?
Well, I've actually seen, I was teaching during that time. I was actually in the classroom, and I was at a particular high school that had full-blown welding shops inside the classroom. I believe there was about 16 stations. Students were coming out of graduating from high school with their certifications in welding, going right into the field and right into the trade, making $30 plus $40 an hour as 18, 19-year-old young men and women. And I actually literally saw with my own eyes these welding stations being removed from the classroom and literally dumped into the parking lot because they were going to prepare those classrooms for this computer and technology wave that was coming back, coming about 15, I think it was about 15 years ago. Yeah. And they converted all those welding stations, those classrooms, those IT buildings into computer labs. And now you see that pendulum swinging right back. You hear in education this need to get the vocational ed programs or the career tech ed programs or whatever you want to call them, whatever the buzzword is these days, try to get those back into the schools. And so you see this movement again, which I really felt that it should have always been there from the very beginning.
So from an educator's perspective, you are seeing the pendulum swing.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think out in the general public, like the Mike Rowe, the Dirty Jobs guy, he's got a lot of visibility. But he really is pushing the hands-on trades, and so are others. And it's so nice, it's so refreshing to see the importance of that being spilled out into the world again.
And I don't know the exact percentage, but the number of kids that are going into post-secondary education or institutions, whether that's JC or State College or UC or some type of private institution, is somewhere in the 37, 38%.
And 4% graduate.
Okay, and that begs the question: what are the other 63 or 64% of our students doing after they graduate from high school? Well, they're going into the workforce, or they're going into the military, or and what are we doing in education to prepare those 60% of the students? What are we doing for them in the K-12 public arena? Unfortunately, I think our K-12 system is designed for the bottom tier, because if you really think about the courses that we're offering, especially those schools that are struggling with offering, the shops and the career, real robust career technical education programs, what they're doing is they've designed a system that is really catering to the bottom 37% or the 37% of our kids. And so we need to ask ourselves, what are we doing for the other students? And the only answer to that is to bring in, more career technical education programs into the schools. And
in automotive, what we've done at our shop, we're doing a little bit different. We've decided in our shop to focus on science.
But see, here's the thing. When you're talking about, just a minute ago, when you were talking about the wavelength and what the kids were seeing in the career fair, the disconnect is that we're not making that connection in the physics classroom.
That's what I was going to say.
Boy, that's a very good point.
Because even when I was going through, in high school, when I was in high school, it's the relevancy piece. Okay, how do we make that what they're learning in the classroom applicable to what's happening out in the real world? Well, that is the disconnect. Okay, and that's where we need to make sure that we get people like Warren in talking to our physics teachers, or and saying, hey, when you're teaching this unit, bring me in so I can talk about how that applies into the automotive,
That's right. Yeah. That's what I was going to say. See, we focus on science in our shop by doing the electrical waveforms. So we look at chemistry. Chemistry, of course, is what happens in the catalytic converter with coolants, things like that. We're looking at physics when you're talking about brakes and all kinds of things. And we're talking about electricity, Kirchhoff's law. Talking about Ohm's law. We're talking about a lot of things like that. So when you learn those physics and those electrical principles, like what I say all the time, physics is not, or electricity is not different in Europe than it is in Japan. And it's not different in Japan than it is in California. So when I learn the science, it doesn't really matter what I'm working on. That's one of the things that we concentrated on science, so that we didn't have to have every single scanner, every single tool to work on every single car. Because the science is uniform from manufacturer to manufacturer, we've decided to focus on the science to do the diagnostic. And so, it doesn't matter what manufacturer we're working on. It doesn't even matter if we're working on a car. Could be working on a boat. We could be working on my house. It has higher voltage, but the rules are always the same.
Technology up. You know, that brings up a lot of great points. I've always thought that automotive, again, is a great opportunity for all levels of education. And one of the things that I think would help all this work better is, like you're saying, Andy, is making that connection with all the other technology classes, whether it's physics, science, or, you know, electronics.
All the weaving together, yeah.
You know, you want to understand a computer? Well, come get hands-on with probably the most complex computer that all of us come in contact with every day. And look at it from the signal side, from the chemical side, all of that. Just it's very exciting. So let me ask y'all. So in this process, Warren, that you've gone through, what are the steps that you went through to get this process to where it is now? What are the challenges you've faced with? What are the lessons you've learned?
The biggest thing that for me was just being there and being there regularly. The board always has an agenda that they're going over, but you never know.
School board.
School board always has an agenda every meeting. But when you look at the summary, you never know the different threads and the different ways that it's going to go. So you just got to be there to give input at a time. It's not scheduled all the time. Right. You have to be there. You have to put in the work. You have to put in the time. And the biggest obstacle, of course, is the money. And so, like I said, what Andy did, he had a model. When he told me about his model, that really excited me. I was really excited when I heard that. And then for him to go ahead and get the model done, and there's no money, and then all of a sudden the money comes and it's available, and he applies for it. I mean, I knew by going to other meetings that the governor had appropriated $750 million. I'm sure he knew too. But whether he did or didn't, I was going to let him know I knew it was time to move forward. So it's always just money, or not always money, but a lot of times it's money. And, you know, and you have so many entities. The school wants to do so many things for the students. And so you just got to be there and wait your turn in line. And when your opportunity comes and the money comes at the same time, you just have to be there.
So Andy, it would make it easier to sell, say, an automotive program when you can tie it into all of the other programs, you know, from a technology perspective. Is did that a strategy that you had to use, or what did you do?
That is pretty much our model that we have in our district, is trying to, we have what's called cross-curricular projects and project-based learning. Where one particular project is not only being done in math, but it's the same project that they're studying in English and in science and in math, and they, you know, it all comes together. It's cross-curricular. So, you know, I really think that if you're going to have a CTE program, you have to incorporate the English, and you have to incorporate the math, and you have to incorporate the science within that, and make it that project-based learning, because that's really what that whole relevancy piece that I was talking about. It's not just relevant in, you know, ag mechanics. It's relevant also. This project that we're doing or what we're studying is also relevant to the math, and it's relevant to English. You know, in what way is it relevant in English? Well, the paper that they're writing on an ag mechanic project that they're doing inside, you know, ag mechanics, and you try to weave that all in together. So, you know, hopefully, you know, it will become part of the core program. You know, not just a standalone, you go to the shop and that's all you're going to do there. No, you may want to do the research over in English, or you know, maybe do the science research over in the science class that you're studying. And it does take a lot of collaboration, you know, amongst the teachers, but it's possible. We're doing it. We're doing it today, you know, on other projects. But you know, the community is really wants this to happen. I hope that.
Was it hard to get the community involved? I mean, was that part of the work at the board meetings? How did that?
You know, it wasn't a huge challenge, I don't think. Do you? I don't know. What do you think, Warren? I mean, I mean, I think the community out there has always been real career tech ed supporters.
I've been paying attention to the elections in our area, in our district, and I actually walked for a trustee 2 years ago, and that was the big topic. That was the biggest topic. So I was a big advantage, I believe.
So was it the topic that you brought up, or just when you talked to people, that was the topic that came up?
Well, because of my involvement and knocking door to door, that was a big thing that Steve was on his platform. It was one of the things on the platform, and
So they were already, it was already on people's mind.
Because of the opponent that we were running against, he also had vocational or technology education technology. That was on their platform too. But that was what I would call old school. What they wanted to do is what we're doing today in our shops. Mm-hmm. And that's not what I wanted to do. I wanted to have a shop that was futuristic and what we're going to be doing in the future. And the trustee, and I talked to the trustee that I walked with and walked the district with, and he was with me. So that was really, in my opinion, that was really the biggest issue out there with the two camps or the two candidates. We're talking about career.
So when you were out talking to folks, when you brought up this topic, they were interested.
That was the biggest topic.
Right,
and it always is. It
You
always is.
In general, there's a feeling that career technology, once it got wiped away years ago, you know, that people just forgot about it. But, you know, I think there's a good momentum. You know, you got these kids that go to college and they end up having a loan that they have to pay off, and it takes their lifetime to pay it off. You know, there's you know, people are looking for alternatives. And I always look at automotive as having great potential. And it's also very exciting. You know, in a way, automotive is you can learn the trade and then go out there, and it's an open door for you to accomplish whatever you want to accomplish.
That's right.
Based on your motivation and ambition. You don't get opportunities like that in such an important industry to the basic functioning of society. And if you look at how the technology is going to continue,
correct,
it's an exciting thing to be a part of.
Absolutely.
So that's great to know that as you're walking the streets and talking to folks, that they understand this industrial arts is important, and to see this swinging come back. Now, in this process, what did you learn? What are the challenges that you would want to share with others? Here's what I would want others to know that might be in your shoes in the future.
Having gone through this, and it was actually my first time ever going through and developing, designing a curriculum and having a career tech ed committee, career technical education committee, and assembling that committee with advisors of people out in the field, is that every single district has these going on. And I guess what I would say is, you know, I didn't realize how many individuals like Warren and like Mark Toole and the barbecue.
Dawn.
Is it Dawn?
Or Marie and Pete's.
Well, you know, all the other advisors that were more than willing to come in and sit on this committee and be involved in something like this. So, you know, I guess the message would be that if there's anybody out there that's going to be watching this and you're in your local school district, go knock on the door and say, hey, I'd like to be on a committee, you know, on a CTE committee or some type of vocational ed committee, and provide you my insight or, you know, my knowledge from industry, so that you guys can incorporate that into the classroom and into the curriculum. You know, because that was something that I realized going through, that wow, you know, there are partners out there that are more than willing and wanting to come in and be a part of the process.
And it's important too, because it's not going to happen overnight because of the money, because of bond, you know, having money out of the bond issue to build the CTE building, and to do it right, to build the curriculum right and get the technology and all that. It's an ongoing process, and it takes a long time, and it takes a lot of money. And so getting that component, I can't answer for him, but from me, just looking at the budgets, I would think that would be one of the biggest, most difficult things that he'd have to deal with. So when Andy wrote his, what's it called? What you sent to the state, your application?
Yeah, it was a letter of intent for.
Letter of intent. Okay, that was good. The state approved it for $6 million. So I'm all happy with that. There's one thing that I'm not happy with, though, is a grant is a grant. When the grant's over, anything that it was supporting is over. So what I need to do from my end of it is make sure that part of the career technical education, that it comes out of the general fund, because that means it's ongoing. So then when you're trying to get money out of the general fund, you're dealing with unions and you're dealing with other departments, and there's only so much money. So
does that translate into it gets more and more difficult?
You got to build more relationships. You've got to try. From what I can tell you is that everybody that I've met, I don't like them all, but everybody that I've met that ever was employed by a school district or going to a school board meeting, they were all there for the exact same reason. They were there to try to help the kids. Everybody wants to try to help. It's just we don't all have the same path. We don't all have the same priorities. And so we'll just see how that all works out. But it's important for me to carve out some money so that it's ongoing, that it's part of the budget instead of just temporary as being grants. Is that right? You can see that's going to be tough.
Yeah, just to clarify the grant, it was a letter of intent that we sent to the state, and we were in the process of writing the grant.
Right.
Nothing has been awarded yet, but there was a potential for $6 million
for 3 years.
Yeah. And then like Warren says, that grant money typically you have to commit that you're going to be able to sustain that when the grant runs out. So that that's a challenge. But I think as we grow out in that area and we get more students, which in turn will be additional revenue to the district, I think you're going to see that CTE building go up sooner than later and have a really strong CTE program.
All right, that's pretty exciting.
So it's just long term, George. That's all I can tell you is you just can't give up. You just have to be there, and you just have to keep going, and you have to make the best of your opportunities, whatever they are, when they are.
And the input, we don't know what's happening out in the field in industry. That's why you need advisors like Warren there to say, this is what's happening, this is where it's going, this is what we need our kids to learn when they're in school, and so that they come out with this specific, particular kind of skill set in order to be successful. Because you don't want to have to teach that.
That's right.
Right?
Right.
It'd be nice if they came out with that that skill set, right?
I'd like to know their aptitude. Yes.
Yeah. Laying a good foundation.
Yeah.
So we should probably conclude here. So any last thoughts? Anything that you think could be important to share that you haven't already?
No. I think it's it's been a real good partnership. I've learned quite a bit too, just by conversations with Warren. But he has been I just want to say he has been a major champion in our area in regards to career technical education, and that's not going away.
Right. Yeah.
Sure.
Right. Well, on that note, I want to thank you guys.
All right.
And Warren, appreciate it, man. You're the real deal. You're out there making it happen and putting it together.
You got it started for me.
Hey, and Andy,
Pleasure,
thank
George,
you,
to meet you.
man.
Yeah,
That's
thank you.
excellent.
Yep.